April 23, 1970. The South China Sea stretched like black silk beneath a moonless sky, 11 nautical miles southeast of Phuoc Tuy Province. The USS Cook, hull number DE-1083, cut through the swells with mechanical precision, her Knox-class destroyer frame adapted for coastal patrol duty that few understood and fewer discussed. Lieutenant James Reef Halverson pressed salt-stained binoculars against his eyes, scanning the horizon where starlight died against the water. The radar operator's voice cut through the engine hum. Surface contact, bearing 087, range 11,000 yards. The blip appeared faint on the green screen. Too small for a cargo vessel, too fast for a fishing junk, moving with the deliberate course of something guided by instruments rather than wind and current. This was the beginning of Operation Silent Current, a mission that would reveal how deeply the enemy's roots had grown beneath the waves. In the briefing rooms of Vung Tau, Australian intelligence officers had dismissed the maritime threat with characteristic skepticism. The Americans are chasing ghosts at sea, Colonel Morrison had declared, studying reports of suspected infiltration routes. The Viet Cong have no navy, no capacity for sustained maritime operations, yet intercepted radio transmissions told a different story. Coded messages referenced water buffalo routes and deep fishing grounds that appeared on no commercial charts. For months, analysts had tracked suspicious patterns, fishing vessels that appeared near shore after midnight, maintaining radio silence, carrying loads that displaced more water than nets full of fish should require. The conventional wisdom held that the enemy moved only through jungle trails and underground tunnels. That night, the USS Cook would prove how wrong that assumption had become. The sea, it turned out, held secrets as dark as any tunnel system carved beneath the Mekong Delta. The USS Cook represented the cutting edge of maritime interdiction technology, her hull packed with AN/SPS-10 surface search radar, sonar arrays designed for anti-submarine warfare, and communication systems that could coordinate with swift boats and helicopter gunships across a 100-mile radius. Operation Market Time, the massive coastal surveillance network, had deployed over 80 vessels to monitor South Vietnam's 1,200-mile coastline. Each destroyer worked in concert with smaller patrol craft, creating an interlocking web of radar coverage and visual observation posts. The waters off Phuoc Tuy presented unique challenges: shifting currents that could hide engine noise, shallow coastal zones where sonar struggled to distinguish between fish schools and metal hulls, and thousands of legitimate fishing vessels that provided perfect camouflage for infiltration. The Cook's crew had mastered the delicate art of maritime pursuit, learning to read the subtle signatures that distinguished a harmless fisherman from an enemy courier carrying coded radio. Every night brought the same ritual: sweep, detect, pursue, inspect. Most contacts proved innocent, but the pattern suggested that for every suspicious vessel they intercepted, 10 others slipped through the darkness. At 02:47 hours, the radar contact vanished. The green blip that had maintained steady course and speed for 18 minutes simply disappeared from the screen. "Lost contact," the operator reported, his voice tight with frustration. Commander Halverson ordered emergency stop, engines cut to minimize acoustic interference. In the sudden quiet, they heard it. Muffled underwater explosions, rhythmic and deliberate, like demolition charges detonating in sequence. The sonar operator's headphones crackled with metallic echo. Underwater contact, bearing 091, depth 40 meters, moving southwest, but as quickly as it appeared, the acoustic signature faded into the ambient noise of the sea. The Cook's crew stared at instruments that registered nothing but empty water, yet their ears had heard the unmistakable sound of something substantial moving beneath them. The first encounter ended with a ghost disappearing into the depths, leaving only questions and the bitter taste of salt air mixed with diesel. Dawn brought clarity and revelation in equal measure. UDT-13 divers descended through 30 feet of murky water, following the coordinates where the acoustic contact had last registered. Among the fishing nets and coral debris scattered across the sandy bottom, they discovered sealed metal containers marked with Vietnamese ideographs and serial numbers that matched no known civilian equipment. Inside the watertight boxes, sophisticated radio components, sealed documents wrapped in wax paper, and a brass disc engraved with numerical sequences that intelligence officers would later identify as cryptographic keys, the same type of communication equipment captured during Operation Townsville, the joint Australian-American assault on Viet Cong command bunkers near Long Hai. The underwater cache confirmed what many had suspected, but none had proven. The enemy was rebuilding their shattered communication network through maritime channels. The sea, Traditionally, Vietnam's highway for commerce and sustenance had become a covert supply line, feeding intelligence and equipment to insurgent forces operating throughout the coastal provinces. Within 72 hours, the 7th Fleet had mobilized a comprehensive interdiction operation that transformed the coastal waters into a technological hunting. Swift boats from Coastal Squadron 1, coordinated with SH-2 Sea Sprite helicopter equipped with magnetic anomaly detectors and night vision system. The USS Cook joined 2 other Knox-class destroyers in systematic sweeps, covering the maritime corridor between Long Hai and Binh Toi province. Their quarry proved elusive and deadly: fishing junks that exploded when approached, sampans that jettisoned weighted containers before capture, and high-speed craft that disappeared into river mouths defended by concealed machine gun positions. On April 26th, they achieved their first significant capture. A 40-foot vessel disguised as a commercial fishing boat yielded Soviet-manufactured radio equipment, detailed coastal charts marked with transfer points, and handwritten logs documenting supply runs dating back 6 months. The intelligence bonanza revealed a sophisticated maritime network that had operated undetected for half a year, moving equipment and personnel between North Vietnamese supply bases and Viet Cong operational areas throughout the Mekong Delta region. Commander Halverson's situation report to MACV headquarters in Saigon carried understated language that masked extraordinary implications. Enemy maritime network confirmed and disrupted. Coordination between seaborne and terrestrial supply routes indicates comprehensive logistical planning. In Pentagon briefing room, the simultaneous breakdown of land and sea communication networks was celebrated as a strategic triumph. Operation Townsville had severed the Viet Cong's terrestrial command structure. Operation Silent Current had eliminated their maritime backup system. For military planners accustomed to viewing the war through the lens of jungle warfare and helicopter mobility, the discovery of a parallel naval campaign revealed the enemy's adaptability and long-term strategic thinking. Yet for the sailors aboard the Cook, victory carried the bitter taste of incomplete resolution. The sea had yielded equipment and intelligence, but no prisoners, no commanders, no human faces to attach to the sophisticated network they had disrupted. Sonar contacts had become silent, radio frequencies had gone dead, but the ocean kept its secrets about the men who had built and operated this underwater supply line. When Operation Silent Current officially concluded on May 15, 1970, the USS Cook received a routine commendation for meritorious assistance in maritime interdiction operations. No mention was made of cryptographic equipment, underwater caches, or the sophisticated intelligence work that had operated beneath the waves for months without detection. The operation's classified reports remained buried in 7th Fleet archive, accessible only to officers with appropriate clearances and demonstrable need to know. Years later, Master Chief Petty Officer Ronald Martinez, who had served as the Cook's senior sonar operator, would reflect on the mission with characteristic naval understatement. "We found more than fish down there, found a whole different kind of war happening where nobody could see it." There, the South China Sea had swallowed the evidence of that hidden conflict, leaving only memories and classified files to document how the enemy had learned to fight beneath the waves, speaking in codes and navigating by instruments that civilian fishermen had never needed to master. The ocean outlasted the operation, the war, and most of the men who had sailed its contested waters. Where destroyer sonars once searched for enemy submarines, commercial fishing fleets now work the same ground, their nets occasionally snagging metal fragments that wash up on beaches from Vung Tau to Long Hai. Local fishermen speak quietly of nights when the sea remembers when instruments malfunction and radios pick up transmissions in languages that no one claims to understand. The USS Cook was decommissioned in 1992, her hull cut apart at a naval shipyard in Philadelphia, but the secrets she discovered remain classified, filed away in archives that few will ever access. History is not made of victories alone, but of voices that refuse to disappear beneath the waves, and mysteries that continue to surface in the testimony of sailors who learned that some battles are fought in waters too deep for sunlight to reach. The war beneath the South China Sea had ended not with surrender or victory, but with silence falling across frequencies that had once carried the coded conversations of men who trusted the ocean to keep their secret. In the end, it did exactly that, swallowing their transmissions and their vessels with equal indifference, leaving only the rhythm of waves against distant shores to mark where hidden battles had once raged beneath the surface of a conflict that most would remember only for its jungle campaigns and helicopter assault. The enemy's secret navy had vanished into depths that no radar could penetrate, no sonar could map, carrying with it the final encrypted messages of a war that had learned to speak in the language of the sea. The technological sophistication of the maritime infiltration net, discovered during Operation Silent Current, revealed capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about enemy logistics and communication. Analysis of captured radio equipment indicated Soviet R-354M transceivers, modified with waterproof casings and extended battery systems, capable of maintaining signal strength across distances exceeding 200 nautical miles. The cryptographic disks recovered from underwater caches employed a numerical encoding system that paralleled methods used by North Vietnamese naval intelligence units operating from bases near Haiphong Harbor. Each disk contained over 3,000 alphanumeric combinations, suggesting a communication network capable of coordinating multiple simultaneous operations across the entire coastal region of South Vietnam. Intelligence officers at the Naval Security Group activity in Saigon spent weeks decoding the captured material, revealing operational details that transformed understanding of enemy maritime capability. The recovered documents detailed a supply network designated Project Sea Dragon by North Vietnamese planners, involving modified fishing vessels equipped with hidden compartments, encrypted communication systems, and navigation equipment that allowed precise coordination with shore-based reception teams. Routes documented in the captured charts indicated regular supply runs originating from staging areas near Vinh, traveling southward through international waters before turning toward predetermined landing sites along the South Vietnamese coast. The operation had maintained strict radio silence during transit, communicating only through brief coded transmissions at specific coordinates where detection by American monitoring stations remained unlikely. Weather patterns played a crucial role in the enemy's maritime strategy, with documented supply runs timed to coincide with monsoon conditions that degraded radar effectiveness and reduced patrol aircraft visibility. The captured logs revealed meticulous planning that accounted for tidal variations, moon phases, and seasonal wind patterns that affected both detection probability and vessel performance. During the southwest monsoon season, from May through September, the network had achieved remarkable success rates, with over 80% of documented supply missions reaching their intended destinations without interdiction. The spring dry season, when Operation Silent Current achieved its breakthrough, represented the enemy's most vulnerable period, when clear skies and calm seas provided optimal conditions for American surveillance technology. The human cost of the maritime war became apparent through intercepted personal communications discovered among the captured materials. Letters written in careful Vietnamese script revealed the psychological burden carried by sailors who operated these clandestine supply runs. Men who understood that capture meant certain death and disappearance meant anonymity, even among their own forces. One document, partially damaged by seawater, contained what appeared to be final instructions from a vessel commander to his family. The sea keeps many secrets. If mine becomes one of them, remember that some journeys serve purposes larger than the men who make them. These glimpses into the personal dimension of the maritime conflict revealed courage and dedication that transcended political ideology, demonstrating how ordinary fishermen had been transformed into naval operatives willing to risk everything for their cause. Technological innovation emerged from both sides of the maritime conflict, driving rapid development of detection and evasion systems that would influence naval warfare doctrine for decades. The enemy's success in modifying civilian vessels for military purposes prompted American naval engineers to develop more sophisticated acoustic detection systems capable of distinguishing between legitimate fishing activity and covert operation. The AN/SQS-26 sonar systems installed aboard destroyers like the USS Cook underwent continuous refinement throughout 1970, incorporating new signal processing algorithms that could identify the acoustic signatures of modified vessel hulls and concealed engine configurations. Meanwhile, captured equipment revealed that North Vietnamese engineers had developed innovative solutions for waterproofing sensitive electronics, creating sealed communication systems that could function reliably in the harsh marine environment, while maintaining the external appearance of standard fishing gear. The strategic implications of the maritime infiltration network extended far beyond simple supply logistics, representing a comprehensive attempt to establish parallel command and control systems that could survive the destruction of land-based infrastructure. Intelligence analysis revealed that the sea-based communication network served as a backup system for coordinating operations throughout the Mekong Delta region, providing redundant communication channels that ensured operational continuity, even when ground-based radio networks were compromised or destroyed. The discovery of this maritime backup system explained how Viet Cong units had maintained coordination and received intelligence updates despite intensive American efforts to disrupt their communication network through electronic warfare and targeted strikes against known command bunkers. Coordination between maritime and terrestrial operations reached levels of sophistication that impressed even experienced American intelligence. The timing of Operation Silent Current's success, occurring simultaneously with the Australian-led Operation Townsville, revealed how thoroughly the enemy had integrated their land and sea logistics network. When ground forces captured the Viet Cong command complex near Long Hai, they discovered communication logs that referenced specific maritime supply schedule, indicating real-time coordination between shore-based commanders and sea-based logistics coordinators. This integration allowed the enemy to maintain operational flexibility, shifting supply routes between land and sea channels based on intelligence about American patrol patterns and interdiction activities. The psychological warfare dimensions of the maritime conflict proved as important as its tactical implications, creating uncertainty and paranoia that affected American naval operations throughout the coastal region. The discovery that enemy forces had operated undetected in waters considered secure for months undermined confidence in existing surveillance systems and prompted comprehensive reviews of coastal defense protocol. Patrol crews began reporting false contacts and phantom signals as they struggled to distinguish between genuine threats and the natural phenomena that had previously provided cover for enemy operations. The knowledge that sophisticated enemy forces might be operating beneath the surface created persistent anxiety among naval personnel who had previously viewed coastal patrol duty as relatively routine compared to the intense ground combat occurring inland. Training and operational procedures throughout the 7th Fleet underwent significant modifications in response to lessons learned during Operation Silent Current. New protocols emphasized the importance of coordinating multiple detection systems, combining radar, sonar, and visual observation to create comprehensive surveillance coverage that could identify even the most sophisticated infiltration attempt. Crew training programs expanded to include instruction in maritime infiltration tactics, underwater warfare techniques, and the acoustic signatures of modified civilian vessels. The complexity of distinguishing between legitimate fishing activity and covert operations required naval personnel to develop new skills in behavioral analysis and pattern recognition that went far beyond traditional naval warfare doctrine. The environmental impact of the maritime war created lasting changes to the coastal ecosystem that remained visible years after the conflict ended. The extensive use of depth charges and underwater demolitions during interdiction operations altered the seafloor topography in several areas, creating artificial reefs that attracted marine life, while simultaneously destroying traditional fishing grounds used by local communities for generations. Chemical residues from destroyed enemy equipment contaminated small areas of the coastal zone, requiring environmental monitoring that continued well into the 1980s. The disruption of traditional fishing patterns forced many Vietnamese coastal communities to seek alternative livelihoods, contributing to the broader social upheaval that characterized the war's impact on civilian populations. Intelligence cooperation between American, Australian, and South Vietnamese naval forces reached unprecedented levels during the maritime interdiction campaign, creating information-sharing protocols that served as models for future multinational naval operations. The success of Operation Silent Current depended heavily on intelligence provided by Australian signals intercept stations operating from bases near Vung Tau, which had detected the initial communication patterns that revealed the existence of the maritime network. South Vietnamese naval personnel provided crucial local knowledge about fishing patterns, seasonal variation, and coastal geography that allowed American forces to distinguish between normal activity and potential infiltration attempts. This multinational cooperation demonstrated how effective coordination could overcome the limitations that individual naval forces faced when operating in unfamiliar waters against unconventional threats. The long-term strategic consequences of dismantling the maritime supply network contributed significantly to the eventual isolation of Viet Cong forces operating in the coastal provinces. Without reliable sea-based logistics support, enemy units found themselves increasingly dependent on overland supply routes that were more vulnerable to interdiction and surveillance. The loss of the maritime communication network forced Viet Cong commanders to rely on slower, less secure methods of coordination that reduced their operational flexibility and response time. By late 1970, intelligence reports indicated measurable declines in enemy activity levels throughout the Phuoc Tuy and Binh Tuy provinces, suggesting that the destruction of the maritime network had achieved strategic effects that extended far beyond its immediate tactical impact. The legacy of Operation Silent Current influenced naval doctrine development long after the Vietnam War ended, contributing to the evolution of coastal defense strategy that emphasized multidimensional surveillance and the integration of various detection technology. The lessons learned about enemy adaptability and innovation in maritime environments informed American naval planning for subsequent conflict, particularly regarding the challenges of distinguishing between civilian and military activity in complex coastal environments. The operation's success demonstrated the importance of persistent surveillance, multi-platform coordination, and the willingness to investigate seemingly routine activities that might conceal sophisticated enemy operations. Personal accounts from crew members who participated in Operation Silent Current revealed the psychological complexity of naval warfare in an environment where the enemy remained largely invisible and the distinction between civilian and military targets often proved ambiguous. Petty Officer Second Class David Chen, who served as a radar operator aboard the USS Cook, later described the experience. "You learn to listen to the ocean differently, to hear things that shouldn't be there. Every fishing boat became a question mark. Every unusual radar return became a potential threat. The sea stopped being neutral territory and became another battlefield where the rules of engagement were written in invisible ink." The documentation of enemy maritime capabilities discovered during Operation Silent Current provided intelligence value that extended well beyond the immediate operational context, offering insights into North Vietnamese strategic planning and technological capabilities that informed American assessments of enemy potential in other areas of the conflict. The sophistication of the maritime network suggested levels of coordination and resource allocation that challenged existing estimates of enemy organizational capabilities. This intelligence contributed to broader strategic assessments that influenced American policy decisions regarding the scope and duration of military involvement in Southeast Asia. Weather and environmental factors played crucial roles in both the enemy's success and eventual discovery, demonstrating how natural conditions could serve alternatively as cover and obstacle for covert maritime operations. The monsoon seasons that provided concealment for enemy vessels also created operational challenges that ultimately contributed to their detection, as the need to maintain precise schedules despite adverse weather conditions forced compromises in operational security that American surveillance systems were eventually able to exploit. The seasonal patterns of success and failure documented in captured logs revealed how thoroughly enemy planners had studied local environmental conditions and adapted their operations accordingly. The technological arms race that emerged from the maritime conflict accelerated innovation in both surveillance and evasion systems, creating advances that found applications in subsequent military and civilian contexts. American development of improved acoustic detection systems contributed to advances in submarine warfare technology and environmental monitoring capabilities that proved valuable in post-war applications. Enemy innovations in waterproofing and concealment techniques influenced the development of covert communication systems and underwater equipment that found uses in various civilian and military contexts throughout the following decade. The human dimension of the maritime war encompassed not only the combatants, but also the civilian fishing communities whose traditional way of life became entangled with military operations on both sides of the conflict. Local fishermen found themselves subject to interrogation and search procedures that disrupted their economic activity, while simultaneously being pressured by enemy forces to provide cover and assistance for infiltration operations. This double burden created lasting resentment and social disruption that persisted long after the military conflict ended, contributing to the complex legacy of foreign military intervention in Vietnamese coastal communities. The final phase of Operation Silent Current involved extensive intelligence analysis that continued for months after the active interdiction phase ended, as analysts worked to understand the full scope and implications of the discovered maritime network. This analysis revealed connections between the coastal infiltration routes and broader North Vietnamese strategic planning that extended throughout Southeast Asia, including similar operations conducted along the coasts of Laos and Cambodia. The maritime network represented one component of a comprehensive logistics strategy that demonstrated enemy capabilities for sustained, coordinated operations across multiple theaters simultaneously. Years after the operation concluded, environmental scientists studying the South China Sea continued to discover physical evidence of the maritime conflict, including corroded equipment fragments and unexploded ordnance that served as reminders of battles fought beneath the wave. These discoveries provided ongoing opportunities for historical research and environmental assessment, contributing to broader understanding of the war's lasting impact on the marine ecosystem and coastal communities. The persistence of physical evidence underwater created a unique archaeological record of naval warfare that complemented the documentary materials preserved in military archives. The legacy of Operation Silent Current extended beyond its immediate military significance to influence broader understanding of how conflicts evolve and adapt to changing technological and environmental conditions. The operation demonstrated how military forces on all sides could develop innovative solutions to tactical challenges, creating new forms of warfare that transcended traditional categories and required equally innovative responses. This pattern of adaptation and counter-adaptation became a defining characteristic of modern conflict, influencing military planning and doctrine development for decades following the Vietnam War's conclusion. History is not made of victories alone, but of voices that refuse to disappear beneath the waves, and the courage of sailors who learned that some secrets are written in water rather than ink. The South China Sea remembers everything and reveals nothing, keeping faith with both the living and the dead who trusted their stories to depths that no archive can fully document. What should we cover next? Subscribe and share your thoughts on this video. Your feedback and support are immensely valuable and help me keep improving the content.